Hello everyone, and welcome to Propel 2021. My name is Automatch. I am Senior Acumatica Implementation Consultant here at the Answer Company. In today's presentation, I will demo Acumatica expense management functionality, all the way from entering an expense receipt to reconciling those expenses against a bank statement for a corporate credit card. First, I will spend a few minutes discussing a couple of informational slides with you. So let's jump right in. Acumatica Expense Management System offers automated receipts through optical character recognition. US and Canadian customers can take a picture of a receipt on their mobile phone using the Acumatica app. Acumatica will automatically create an expense receipt from the image. You can also connect to over 14,000 financial institutions to directly import bank statements into Acumatica. The setup takes just minutes to establish a secure connection. Using push notifications, you can send email or text messages to automate communications to your employees. For example, you can notify employees via email or text messages when credit card transactions do not have an associated scanned expense receipt. You can define default settings to categorize and post transactions to specific general ledger accounts. For example, the credit card statement category or the vendor can automatically identify food or restaurant expenses to post these to a meals and entertainment GL account in Acumatica. Using artificial intelligence, Acumatica automates smart matching for credit card transaction imports and expense receipts with character recognition for improved data accuracy. With regards to security and audit logs, multi-factor authentication, advanced encryption standard AES 256, and transport layer security ensures safety and security for all of the information exchanges. Credit card fees updates are logged at the record and field level in Acumatica, providing the traceability for all data transactions. In today's demo presentation, we will cover 3 different scenarios within the same expense claim. The first scenario is where an employee uses credit card for business transactions, for business expenses. This is the first lane in this diagram where we have expense uses corporate card for purchases. And the employee enters into Acumatica an expense receipt. You can do that through the mobile app or directly in the web application. The expense receipt is combined into an expense claim and submitted for an approval process. So depending on the approval maps configured in Acumatica ERP, the expense claim will be submitted to a superior or maybe the finance department for approval before it is released to accounting for bank reconciliation process. The second scenario in this presentation is where an employee bills a personal expense to a company credit card. This is the second lane in here where the corporate credit card is used for a personal expense. In this case, this personal expense can be combined into the same expense claim and goes through the approval process. When the personal expense is submitted, the system creates a debit adjustment to offset any owings that the company might have to the employee with regards to expenses. And finally, the third scenario is where an employee may pay company expenses on their own and get reimbursed from the company as a vendor bill. So that's the final lane here, where employee pays a company expense from their personal account, could be a personal debit card or a credit card, and they submit that in the expense claim. And this results in an employee bill, which is a bill now to our company as we owe this money as reimbursement to our employees. So you can set up your people with corporate credit cards. They can bill company expenses to it and do personal expenses. Then the system will net out any personal expenses they charge to the company corporate card and with the claims where they have paid for company expenses from their personal accounts to create an AP bill for the employee reimbursements. The expenses that are charged on the corporate credit card, this info gets sent over to accounting for a bank reconciliation process as the final step in this entire presentation. So in the presentation, I will be covering an expense claim, which will have a corporate card for company expenses, corporate card for personal expenses, and where an employee settles a company expense from their own personal account. So let's go ahead and take a look at this demo presentation in the system. Okay, so let's start the Acumatica expense management presentation. First of all, I'll go in my banking workspace and open up the corporate cards profiles. Just want to quickly show you how you can set up corporate cards in Acumatica. In this environment, I have 2 corporate credit cards that are defined, and you can assign multiple employees to the same corporate card, or you can have multiple cards assigned to different employees. Here, I'm logged in as Maxwell Baker, and you can see that my employee ID is 1, and I'm assigned, Maxwell Baker is assigned to this corporate credit card. So we'll be processing expense claims today as Maxwell Baker. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the expense claims I have entered here for this presentation. I'll go to my expense claim screen, and this will load all of the expense claims that have been entered by Maxwell Baker. All of these are sitting in release status, which means they're completed. Only this one, which I've entered with the description of Propel 2021 for today's presentation, it is sitting on hold. You can also create different filters, and each employee has the flexibility to create their own filters in the screen, so they easily see their expenses that are sitting in different statuses. Let's go ahead and open the on hold expense. The expense number in this case is 88. Here in the expense claim details section, let's go ahead and review the section in detail. So the first expense that I've entered is Radisson one night, which is at $100. If I scroll all the way on the right here, this has been paid with corporate card, and this is a company expense. There are some other options that Acumatica offers, and it can manage all 3 different options within the same expense claim. And we'll be looking at all 3 of them today. The second is again meals, which is $30. And it is also paid by corporate card, and it's a company expense. And the third line we have is airport store gift, and I'm going to update my description of this expense receipt to just say personal expense. And if I scroll all the way on the right here, you'll notice that this is corporate card, but it's a personal expense. Acumatica also defaults different GL accounts based on the expense category mapped in the expense claim. You can notice that 63200 is used as travel, which is the Radisson one night hotel stay, and then 62200 is meals and entertainment, so on and so forth. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and save this expense claim and go to my mobile device and enter a new expense receipt. By the way, if I were entering my expense claim only from my web application, I do have the option to just click this button and start a new expense receipt. However, what I want to show you is how to enter expense claim while you're on the move. Maybe you're traveling for a business conference, and you can use Acumatica mobile device, cell phone app to enter your expenses. So I'm already logged into my mobile application, and I'm connected to the same Acumatica environment on my mobile device. If I quickly scroll down, just for user interface purposes, this is how Acumatica mobile device looks like. For today's presentation, my focus will be all within the expense receipt section. So let's go ahead and open that up. When I click my expense receipts, these are all the different receipts that I have submitted in the system. Now, I have the option to click the plus sign or click the camera button to start entering my expense claim. For today's presentation, I will just click the plus sign and enter a new expense claim or expense receipt. So the system loads a new expense receipt document in this case. Let's go ahead and enter a new description using text-to-speech. Uber receipt. And there you go. My description is now entered. For some reason, I got auto-corrected. So I'm going to update that to just say Uber receipt. The date is also entered today, and I'm going to go ahead and select this as business travel expense. Let's go ahead and enter an amount of $40 here. Now, Acumatica does support expense claims module's ability to directly write expenses that are related to a specific project and a project task. You can also enter expenses that are billable and select a customer so you can bill these expenses out to your customers. Under the Details tab, let's go ahead and open that up. You can notice that the paid with section in this case is again corporate card company expense. That just so happens to be the default value. I'm going to go ahead and change this as paid with my personal account. So I want to get reimbursed from the company for this expense claim. And the expense account 632200 travel is being automatically populated based on the expense claim that I've selected in this expense receipt. It's based on the expense item I have selected in this case here. Now I do have the option to take a picture and attach an expense receipt to my claim. For today, I'm just going to skip that. Go ahead and click Save up top. So as soon as I hit Save, I have a new expense receipt now visible in my expense receipts section. Using the mobile device, I can add this receipt to the expense claim. For today's presentation, I'm just going to go back to my web application, quickly give this a refresh, and use the Add Receipts button to add that newly created receipt in the system. So you can see that the Uber receipt is now available in my web application in real time. All right, so the Uber receipt has now been added to my total expense claim. I'm going to go ahead and save this one more time, and the $40 is visible here. Just one more time, I wanted to show you the different mechanisms and the three different flavors or scenarios that we are covering in this one same expense claim, where the corporate card is used for company expenses, the corporate card is used for personal expense, and then a personal account is used for a company expense. So next, this expense claim is good to go. We're going to go ahead and remove this from hold. On hold status means it's still sitting in draft mode and it's not yet released. So let's go ahead and finalize this and submit this expense. When I submit this expense, it goes into the pending approval status, and that's because I've defined approval map on this expense claim. Under the approval details section, you can see that this is now assigned to Leila for approval, who belongs to the finance department. So in a normal implementation, Leila would have to log in and approve this expense before we can do anything else with this. And we can configure email and SMS notifications for Leila to receive that she's got an expense she needs to approve. For my demo presentation, however, I'm going to approve my expense claim myself. That's just because that's how I have configured my system. And as soon as I approve the expense claim, you notice that the status has changed to approved. So at this point, we're looking good. Let's go ahead and release this expense claim. When I release the expense claim, under financial details section, system generates different financial documents that are associated with this expense claim. And you can also see the status of each one of these lines being changed as the system processes and registers these transactions in the accounting module. So let's give this a second as this processes. So there you go. All of my lines have been released except this one. I think this is going to be done soon as well. Under the financial details section, you can see that as I release my expense claim, the system has created a $40 bill to the company for Uber receipt that an employee had paid from their own personal account. You also notice a debit adjustment of $25, which is the personal expense that the employee did on the corporate credit card. So the employee only gets reimbursed on a net difference of the bill and the debit adjustment, which is $15 in this case. You can also see the other transactions being registered and charges being shown and released to the accounting module here. So now all the expenses have been submitted, but some of them are corporate credit card. So in the next step of the demo presentation, I want to show you the bank reconciliation process that goes on and how the corporate credit card functionality can make your life a little bit easier in terms of tracking those expenses and making sure everything is tracked correctly all the way from entering the expense receipt and claim and tracking all the way from accounting and doing the bank reconciliation process. So for my bank reconciliation process, I'm going to go ahead and open 3 different screens here. Let me just set this up. Import bank transactions. That's the first screen we will open. Let's go ahead and open that in a new tab. I'm also going to open up another screen called Process Bank Transactions. So the Process Bank Transaction screens, this really just matches the transactions that you have submitted in the system as expense claims. And the transactions that we will import in the system from a bank file. The process screen just takes those transactions and matches them all together. And finally, in the third screen, we're going to do a reconciliation statement. Let me go ahead and open that up. Okay, now that we're all set, let's go back to the import bank transaction screen and start a new import process here. So let's go ahead and select our corporate credit cards that we have used in today's transaction. Sometimes this would be a clearing account, but this time I'm just going to use what I have here, and I've just set up everything on my corporate card. In the start balance state, you can see that my diligence in updating my balance is about a year and a half ago. So I will, I'll just go ahead and live with that for now. And I'll go ahead and select the end date. Let's go ahead and save this record before I import any transaction in this record. So using this import function, I'm going to import a bank file that I've already placed strategically that's easily available for me for import. So let's go ahead and select that and bring that into the system. We do accept, Acumatica does accept several different file formats, including Excel, CSV. I'm using an Excel format today, but we do accept all different formats offered by bank accounts. So in this screen, my field mapping is already completed, so I don't need to make any changes. I'm just going to go ahead and say OK. Okay, so the system has successfully imported my bank file. And you can see that I have a balance earlier. So that a payment was made a long time ago. And a payment is showing up here. And here are my 3 transactions that we have submitted through the expense claim module as well. So in the next step, we're going to go ahead and match these to the expenses that we release in the system. Let's go ahead and give my ending balance of $155 here and save this transaction. Now, under the process bank transaction screen, I'm going to go ahead and select my corporate card. All right, so as it loads up my process bank transaction, my bank transactions for the corporate card, you can see that it already knows the type of transactions here. These are disbursements, and these are different receipts that we imported through the bank file. On the right side of the system, this is where the system is matching these transactions that we imported from a bank statement to the different documents, accounting documents we created in the system. For example, the $1,450 receipt, it looks like it's going to get matched to an AP document here. If you bring that up, that's a payment that we've made to our bank account. And I'm going to go ahead and click the source document. So you can see that in this accounts payable bill, this is a bill for the payment we made to our bank account. And the bank account vendor shows up here. And in the applications tab, you can see a check is assigned to this payment. So we've already paid this out and it's closed. We're just reconciling this in this particular process. So Automatch functionality can be configured using a set of criteria and weights under the match settings dialog box. So for today's presentation, I'm just going to use default setup. But this is where you can assign different criteria and weights to different logics and things in the system. For today, we're just going to go with default. And I already clicked auto match, so the system actually was successfully able to match all the different transactions imported from a bank statement to different documents in the system. These are just the expense claims that we just entered and released in our previous steps. All right, so that looks good. In the next step, I'm going to go ahead and process this. So when I click process, the system just prepares these files, these transactions for bank reconciliation process. So let's go ahead and take a look at that process. Under the reconciliation statements, I'm just going to click the plus sign to start a new statement. And I'm going to reconcile my corporate card. Let's find that. Under my reconciliation statement, You can see that all 4 transactions that we imported through bank statements have already been cleared. This is the 4th one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are my expenses that we submitted. And this is the payment that I had recorded in the system that we made to the bank account. So these are already cleared by the system. I can now go ahead and reconcile the process transactions. And the system goes in and selects these transactions for reconciliation process as they have already been matched in the system. There are some other expenses in our demo data that are not matched through the bank file from a bank statement, and that's fine. I'm just gonna leave them as is for now. Go ahead and release my transaction. Oops. So my bank statement balance needs to be updated to minus 155. That was my ending balance on the when I imported the bank transaction, so that needs to match. Let's go ahead and save this once more and release. Okay, so now I will be all ready the next time I log in, where the reconciliation date will be up to date with today's date, and I'll be ready to go for processing my future bank statements. So this is a little bit about bank reconciliation and showing how the expense process ties all the way from start to finish. I hope you liked that demo presentation for Acumatica expense management system. Next, I will be playing a video that shows you Acumatica's abilities to do direct bank feeds by connecting to a bank and directly import banking statements.
In this video, we will discuss 2 new products from Acumatica, bank feeds and advanced expense management. First, let's take a look at bank feeds. You can see that I have a dashboard of which I have bank transactions at the top, so I can view any of my to be reviewed bank transactions and any that have already been matched and processed. Now down below are the expense receipts that we will get to when we cover the advanced expense management, but this allows me to see which ones are pending, which ones have been unclaimed, what the unclaimed amount is, how many have been claimed, and what that claimed amount is, and how many are missing attachments, which we'll talk about when we look at the mobile app. I also have different categories to where I can look at travel, food and drink in restaurants, food and drink restaurants, fast food, so I can break these down based on how I wish to submit my categories. So let's go ahead and set up a bank feed. So I go to my banking workspace, select bank feeds, and I'm going to select Chase Bank. Now, what I've done is I've set up the bank feed name, I've given it the legal name and the email address of the person that is responsible for this. And now I'm going to link that account through Plaid, which is the bank aggregator. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue, and it's going to allow me to select my bank. Now I could select Chase directly from here, but if it's not any one of the major banks that are listed here, then I do have the capability to search. As an example, if I was looking at something in Texas, I could go ahead and search this. There are currently 14,000 bank feeds available with Plaid. Now, I'm going to go back and look at Chase and link my accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and select Chase. I have multi-factor authentication, so if this is something that you would get if this is something that you would get text, or if this is something that you would get an email, then you would be able to do that. I'm going to go ahead and put in my password that I have and go ahead and connect to Plaid. Now what this will allow me to do is it directs me to my accounts. So these are all the different accounts that I have with Chase, and I'm going to select my Plaid checking, my Plaid saving, and I'll go ahead and select my credit card as well. Once I do this, this will directly connect with Chase Bank and give me my bank feeds within the system that are directly connected. So once that comes in, then I'm going to be able to then apply a cash account to this via going in and selecting the bank cash account that I have set up. So this one happens to be checking, and so I can go ahead and select my checking account. This one is the savings account, so I can go into savings, select my savings account, and then I have a corporate credit card that is set up as well with this. So once I go in and I set these up, I come up and I save this, and I'm done. So that's how you create a bank feed. Now once that is completed, now everything will start coming down from my bank. So all transactions will come down, be encrypted. Passwords and the security is all done through Plaid and totally encrypted. So nothing is stored on the Acumatica site. Now once I get my information that comes in, there's a couple other things that we can do with bank feeds. So if I select this demo account, I have the capability to set up corporate credit cards. So I've already set up a couple corporate credit cards here, and you'll notice that I have a couple different things that I'm using. So I have match rules that I can use a account ID in this particular case. So it's going to look at what I want to use. So in this case, it's going to be use the account ID, or I can use the field starts with, it contains, or ends with. In this case, I've chosen the user account ID. And what this allows me to do is if I have things like Visa, MasterCard, where I have a corporate account, but everybody has their individual card number, then I'm going to use the account that it's set up on. If I selected field contains in this particular case, I'm saying I want it to be the account owner. This is an example of, say, an American Express, to where you have one account with multiple cards underneath that, and I'm matching that based on the name that's on the card, in this case Maxwell Baker. So that's how you set up the corporate credit cards. In the expense items, I can also do very similar things. I can come in and set up within my bank, and these can come down from the bank, but I can have what the category is. So I'm going to have the category or the name. Again, I can have the field contains, starts and ends with, and you'll notice that I've set these up to be match this value. Here's my expense ID that I want to have, but then I have a name. So anything that I buy from Staples will be expensed to supplies. Now you'll also notice that I have one that says do not create. So this gets into the second part and the second product, which is the advanced expense management. Now once I've done that and set these all up, I can process bank transactions. And what this allows me to do is I can select one of my cash accounts. In this case, I'm going to select my corporate credit card account so that we can then move into the other part, which is the advanced expense management. So you'll notice this comes down. Here's everything that has come down from Plaid. Now you'll see that this external reference number is listed over here. This is totally unique, and it is the authentication coming down from Plaid. Gives me my bank transaction date, any receipts, any disbursements, and then I'm on the right hand side, I'm able to match these up. In this case, this one I can match up to an expense receipt, and then I can also match them up to invoices, and I can also match things up to payments. So once I go through the Automatch process, then these will get matched up. It will also show me things that may need to be reviewed. So you'll remember that we had the cash payments that basically were set as unknown. So I'd have to come in and I would have to then actually create an entry type that will apply. So that's the banking feeds and how you can process bank transactions. It also assists with reconciliation. And then now we're going to go ahead and talk about the expenses. So if you remember on our dashboard, we had two different types. So we had the bank transactions at the top, and then we had the expenses at the bottom. The process is the same. I'm going to have the bank feed, and then I'm going to be able to process my bank transactions. And then when that is completed, I'm going to be able to come into my time and expenses, to my expense receipts. And from here, I can see this is me. I'm currently Michael Andrews, as this is how I'm signed in. It comes in and it shows me these are all of my expense receipts that need to be claimed. Now, I can come in here, and this is basically saying you need to go ahead and record this. I will get a push notification if I'm using a mobile app, and what that allows me to do is then use my mobile app, and you'll see that these are the same. So I've got my United Airlines, I've got my Tectra, my Madison Bicycle Shop, and from here I can go on to my mobile app and actually go ahead, and you'll notice at the top I could take a picture of my receipt. It will attach that in to this particular record that I am on, and that way I've got my receipt on. Now you'll notice that there is one here. You'll notice that there's also I could do a project and contract onto here, as well as a project task, and you'll notice these two don't have a reference number coming down from Plaid. So I can also do expenses that I utilize my personal credit card or paid cash for, and I can add those in. along with the documentation. As I mentioned, you can take a picture, and here's my receipt from the camera. So that is the advanced expense management piece. So we've covered the bank feeds as well as the advanced expense management. And for more information on any of this information covered in this video, please contact your Acumatica partner, or you can contact Acumatica and review via www.acumatica.com.
Thank you for taking the time today with us and looking at the expense management presentation. I hope you found this valuable. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@theanswerco.com, or you can connect with your Acumatica account manager or visit our EAT booth to chat or message our team directly. Once again, thank you for taking the time today.